I have Vice President of Communications and Education from the Baseball Hall of Fame, Brad Horn. Brad, how you doing this morning?
Norm, I'm great. A pleasure to be with you.
So now you're in Cooperstown, correct?
That is correct.
So tell us a little bit about Cooperstown. If I was to come to Cooperstown and just what kind of town is it? How big is it?
Absolutely. Cooperstown is one of America's most pastoral and bucolic settings of really anywhere in our country. It's a little village of about 2,000 residents who live here year-round. We're nestled between the Catskill and Adirondack mountain ranges in central New York State. So we're 75 miles from the state capital of Albany, about 4 hours north of New York City. And the entire village really predates baseball, actually. It's been a long-standing village of notable names such as James Fenimore Cooper, who wrote the Leatherstocking Tales, The Adventures of Natty Bumppo, Last Mohicans. The town was named for his father, William Cooper, who established it in the early 1800s. And it's long been just a tribute to American history. It's a place where culture kind of cross and intersects. And then 75 years ago this summer, the Baseball Hall of Fame opened its doors for the very first time. And since that time, the word Cooperstown has become synonymous with the absolute excellence in all of baseball. And really that's what it stands for today. But when you peel back the first layer of the onion, you realize that Cooperstown is so much more than just the home of baseball.
Right. So 75 years. Wow. Are you guys planning a big celebration for the 75 years?
Absolutely. We have 4 cornerstone events this year. The actual anniversary is June 12th. On that day in 1939, Babe Ruth and 10 other members who were featured of the first 4 classes of Baseball Hall of Fame electees had their first induction. And at the time, it really set the table for what we now know across many different sports as Hall of Fame celebrations, but at the time was fairly unique in American culture. There was the Hall of Great Americans, which was down in New York City, that much of the original Baseball Hall of Fame offerings were modeled after. And the 75th anniversary is designed to capture all that the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown has meant to the American culture. So on Memorial Day weekend, May 24th, we have a Legends game. We're going to have 6 Hall of Famers and individuals representing each of the 30 Major League clubs here at the Baseball Hall of Fame for a Legends game. We've got a great fundraising golf tournament, a night at the museum program. June 12th is the actual anniversary. It falls on a Thursday. We're going to recreate what happened on June 12th, 1939 with a dedication ceremony out front, and then we're going to rededicate the next day a space called the Babe Ruth Gallery. It's the 100th anniversary of the Babe's Major League debut in 2014, and he was one of the first Hall of Famers. On July 27th, it's Hall of Fame weekend. That's the biggest celebration ever of the baseball year, in which we honor the newest inductees of the Baseball Hall of Fame. This year we have 6. Frank Thomas, Tom Glavine, Greg Maddux, and then managers Joe Torre, Bobby Cox, and Tony La Russa, one of our most star-studded classes in our history. And then 6 days later, we'll have a 75th anniversary concert featuring great musicians. We've got names like Paul Simon, Bernie Williams, already committed. The Boston Pops serve as the house band. So there's so much for everyone to do at the Baseball Hall of Fame in 2014, and we just feel like the time and anniversary needs a great celebration. So that's why these 4 events highlight what is our daily calendar, which is celebrating baseball history any day of the week.
Wow. You guys are going to be busy. So
absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame weekend, the induction. I mean, I watch it pretty much every year on ESPN or Major League Baseball Network. And, I get the chills. And a couple of years ago, Ricky Henderson spoke, and, that was probably one of the greatest moments, I thought, in time. And number one, he spoke about Tom Trebelhorn, who we're familiar up here in the Northwest League as managing the Salem Kaiser Volcanoes. How special of a weekend is that?
It's really without peer, and you think about that for many reasons. A man who is elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame has spent his entire life, since a very early age, playing this sport. He's played it at the highest levels, he's excelled at the highest levels, and he's earned an honor that's reserved for essentially the top 1% of all of those who have ever played. And on that Sunday of induction, he steps out to a large crowd in the 15 to 25 to 35,000 range, and he delivers a speech. But most importantly, behind him sit 50 to 55 members of the Hall of Fame who are at that same level of excellence as being renowned as the best of their field. So when Rickey Henderson delivered that speech, he had guys behind him like Willie Mays and Sandy Koufax and Bob Gibson, the best, and Hank Aaron, the best of the best from earlier generations. And it's not the easiest thing in the world for a baseball player to deliver a speech, but it gives that individual the chance to think about all of those individuals that really pushed them to be the best. And it's a spine-chilling moment. I've been through 13 induction ceremonies here, and every one of them has its own feel, its own uniqueness. But there's no doubt that it's the most special day in the lives of those individuals who are elected.
How tough of a ticket as a fan is that to come by, to sit there on the grass at an induction?
Well, one of the beauties of what we promote at the Baseball Hall of Fame is that baseball's memories are for everyone. So the ceremony to this day remains free. You can bring a blanket, bring a chair, set out on the hillside of the Clark Sports Center lawn, and watch the ceremony for free. There are reserved seating bays, and as a 501c3 not-for-profit educational institution, we have levels of membership support that will guarantee you a folded chair in the seating area for the ceremony. But the experience is free. You know, the museum, you don't even have to go to the museum if you don't want to, but we certainly think that's the best way to celebrate the day, and a trip to the museum is only $19.50. But the ceremony in and of itself remains free, and that's something that we believe strongly should be a part of what this Baseball Hall of Fame experience is about. It's a chance to come from any corner of the country and make a pilgrimage to salute your favorite baseball hero.
Right, that's what it is, a pilgrimage. Amongst all the Hall of Fames, you know, you got your national, you know, the NFL Hall of Fame and, you know, Basketball Hall of Fame. What separates the Baseball Hall of Fame from those guys? I mean, it seems you guys are on a totally different level.
Well, and we appreciate that comment. We like the things that we are. We feel we have a few things working for us. First and foremost, baseball has its history, and its history is celebrated more than any other sport. So that's an inherent benefit in our favor already. Secondly, the Hall of Fame has been around now for 75 years. For the other sports, they're at like 50 years. And so baseball has had mythical figures like Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Yogi Berra, these great names of individuals who transcend culture. And the village of Cooperstown helps provide that really pastoral, great Americana celebration. You know, the town is pretty unique in what it offers. And then also we're independent of Major League Baseball. And that's not to say that would be a bad thing to be a part of Major League Baseball, and we very much appreciate our relationship with MLB. But it allows us to tell the stories of the game, good and bad,
right,
in a very serious way of American history. So at the heart of it, we think of ourselves as a museum, as an American history museum, where baseball just happens to be our subject.
So voting into the Hall of Fame, is it, you know, you hear naysayers that it's broken. I don't necessarily believe that it is. What's your take on that?
We think that our voting system has withstood the test of time, and that's really the defining calling card for us. The first election was 1936. So for going on the betterment of almost 80 years now, the process seemingly has worked, and that the baseball writers, you'd have a very difficult time making an argument that the BBWA has elected someone to the Hall of Fame that doesn't belong. We believe that 75% of the vote it's a very high plurality for a reason, and that should remain, that only the game's most excellent should earn election. Certainly there are perspectives and opinions, and there's been a lot in recent years in the voting that reflects our society. And by that I mean a number of different ways in which people look at processes with a critical eye. We believe that maybe the process, you know, will need some adjustment at some point, but that overall it's withstood the test of time. The baseball writers have done an excellent job, and our era committee systems, which are known as the veterans committees, have done a good job in giving a second chance review for those who have been overlooked.
Right. That's a tough job. The baseball writers have voting. Because now you've got to deal with the PED era. The Barry Bonds and the guys like that. Whether they belong or don't belong, and that's for opinion. I mean, and whether they do or don't, the numbers speak for themselves. But that's a tough job for those guys. I think though that there's a few guys that I believe that don't write about baseball anymore, and they should possibly give up their vote for somebody who is. But that's here to say.
And there's certainly a lot of perspectives, and there's from our standpoint, we want to make sure that the process is as thorough and as protected as possible, and gives writers the opportunity to determine who belongs in that criteria of not only being excellent, but having character, sportsmanship, and integrity.
Absolutely. So what part of the Hall of Fame, do you have a favorite part?
I love the entire building. The plaque gallery is really the most hallowed ground, and it's where the plaques reside. It's marble floor, oak lined walls where the plaques reside. Among the exhibits, the museum itself is 50,000 square feet dedicated to baseball history. My most favorite exhibits are a couple. The records room, which we opened in 2011, is called One for the Books. And it's just really a wonderful presentation by our team of showing how the numbers of the game drive comparisons. And that's how we compare Cy Young's 511 wins with the top starting pitcher of today, which almost is unfathomable. It's how we look at Rickey Henderson's 1,406 stolen bases and how that measures up against the game today. That's one of my most favorite areas. And then I love the postseason room, because October baseball is about as good as it gets. That's where heroes are made forever,
yep.
And preserving those moments are really key to everything we do. Obviously, the older history of part of the game is so fascinating, and then one of the things that I think we pride ourselves in as a museum is our ability to document history as it happens, and that's made possible through the generosity of Major League clubs, Major League players, and as one of the individuals who are responsible for acquiring artifacts from history as it happens. It's a wonderful feeling to hear from visitors that they came expecting to see Mays, Mantle, and they see the stars of today. They see an item that Mariano Rivera wore at the All-Star game last year, weeks after it happened. So our ability to preserve history as it happens is really important.
Now, the Hall, you guys don't actively purchase artifacts, correct?
That is correct, Norm. Everything is donated. So we solicit donations, and that's a little different than many other collecting institutions, but particularly in baseball where there's such a large memorabilia market, we would never have the ability to compete. So since the museum opened in '39, that has always been the creed, is the Hall of Fame accepts donations of artifacts, and that can come from players, it can come from fans, it can really come from any walk of life, and that's why I would say we're always an institution of the people, by the people, for the people, because everything in our museum has been given out of the generosity of someone to ensure that a fan can come and see those memories for future generations.
How do you guys deal with, like, theft? I know that I've read a few things on certain items, come up missing, but like security-wise, are they like in cases, the different things? And
absolutely, we believe we have state-of-the-art security. Obviously, over a 75-year operation history, we realize that there have been times that that things may have been exposed. We feel that today, and where we stand today as an institution, we have the absolute best security possible, and we take great pride in that to ensure that baseball's most treasured possessions are always kept safe in Cooperstown.
Right. All right. Well, Brad, we thank you for coming on the show. And is there a website that you can plug for the Baseball Hall of Fame real quick?
Absolutely. It's very simple. It's just baseballhall.org, and we thank you, Norm, for the opportunity. And if anybody hasn't experienced it, Cooperstown is just more than you can fathom. It's a place where dreams come true, and it's a wonderful spot where your baseball memories are alive each and every day.
Well, I haven't had that dream come true yet, and one of these days it is definitely on my bucket list to make the trip up north and to check it out. And hey, at $19.50, that's cheaper than Disneyland. And so I'm good with that. Less than $20, you can go into the Baseball Hall of Fame and take a look into history. So,
absolutely.
Once again, thank you for coming on the show, and hopefully we'll chat with you soon again.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity, Norm.
All right. Thank you, Brad. All right. Mr. Brad